What's up, creepers and geekers? Chris, the Atari Creep. How's everyone doing today? Welcome to the Movie Loft. This is a very special Movie Loft. This is one of my favorite movie franchises of all time. Finally going to see Star Wars The Last Jedi. I am here at the IMAX Theater at Jordan's Furniture in Reading, Massachusetts. And I have a 2-hour wait before I can sit down in a seat, but there's a huge line, so I got to get in there now. And there's cops all over the place making sure everyone's cool. I got my 3DS though to keep me company. So when I come back, we're going to have a spoil-free review. And yeah, that's really it. I'm super excited, even though it doesn't sound like I am, because I'm out in public and I don't want to look like a fucking weirdo. So stand by. I'll let you know what I thought, and I'll try to be as spoiler-free as I can. Wowee. I've had a night to sit on it, discuss it with a few people online here and there. And now I'm ready to give you my thoughts on the movie. I got some notes here, but I started seeing that the notes were going all over the place. So this review is going to go all over the place. I'm sure I'm going to forget something. I also mentioned that this was going to be a spoiler-free review. That's going to be kind of a lie. I don't see any way of discussing the pros and cons of this movie without giving things away. So, if you haven't seen the flick yet, please shut this off. Please. And come back to it after you have seen it. So, for those of you who have seen it, here we go. Overall, I thought it was a great movie. There are parts about it that I didn't like. And here's the thing. The things that I didn't like, I absolutely hated. And we'll get into more specifics here in a minute. The movie versus the trailer, surprisingly, was in some spots that I really wanted it to be spot on. It really was. There was a few spots where everyone's like, well, those are two different shots. Where in the movie, no, that's exactly how it happened. And I was happy to see that. Some of the outcomes came out a little bit differently than anticipated from the trailers. And again, we'll get into that here in a few minutes, hopefully if I remember to speak about these specific things. But overall, the parts I liked, I loved. The parts I didn't like, I really hated. This movie has a few pacing issues. And there's a big sequence that cuts in and out that kind of drags the movie down and almost makes it feel like a completely different movie. And it's one of those things where it ties things in with a subplot that it just can't be removed. And that's the part that sucks about it. You just got to get through all this nonsense crap to get to the amazing stuff. Now, the amazing stuff has twists and turns that don't call attention to itself in a huge dramatic fashion. These twists and turns legitimately had me on, what? Not cliffhanger twist and turns, but like there's a sequence where, again, spoilers, where Rey and Kylo are finally meeting, and you find out it was a trap for Rey. And then they go before Snoke, who, by the way, in this movie, in my opinion, Snoke was amazing. I want to see more of that, but unfortunately we can't, and we'll get to that here in a minute. And you think it's going one way, but then it turns another way. It's just great. Kylo ends up killing Snoke, and you think that they're going to come together, but you don't know which side they're going to be on. You don't know if Kylo's going to turn or if Rey's going to turn. And yeah, that's all I can say. And just when I start thinking, oh, this is going to be shit. Kylo, don't do it. Don't puss out. Not only does Kylo not puss out, but he becomes the supreme leader. And even though he's a bumbling idiot with his leadership, this is probably the most amazing thing that could ever happen in a new Star Wars. I love Kylo. I don't care what you say about him in The Force Awakens. I think he's an intriguing character. I think he's what a Darksider would be, especially at his age. Yeah, that whole twist right there was just amazing. Luke. Let's talk about Luke. Luke has said a few times in interviews, and I've read them and seen them online, that he was not a big fan of what was the director's name? Ray Johnson was taking his character. I kind of agree with him on a 50-50 level. There were scenes with Luke that was just amazing. They didn't try to make him the old Luke, even though there was still hints of it in there. Good example. We don't get to the island right away like we were all expecting. It's just going to pick right up at the island, and Rey's going to go on this big adventure learning like in the 80s movies, carrying water up hills and doing all kinds of training montages until she achieves that one goal that they keep showing her not achieving. There's really not much of that training in there at all, actually. And that was disappointing, but I think it was necessary once I saw it as a whole picture. But Luke, he gets his lightsaber, his Graflex, and just fucking throws it over the cliff. Okay, I'm done with this. Don't bring this shit to me. I'm here peacefully. There were scenes of him just living on his daily life that felt like it was forced in. But watching Luke come down a hill with a giant fish on his shoulders after fucking hunting it, that was pretty cool. Overall, I'm 50-50 with Luke's character, but I think it was, and this is going to be the theme of this whole movie. There's going to be a lot of things that kind of suck, but pay off, believe it or not. And when they pay off in a great way. And then when Luke finally confronts his old student on that weird planet, on that salt planet, totally unexpected. Such a great, I won't even spoil that. Just a great climax to those two characters interacting with each other. Now, going back to the whole arc of Luke and Kylo, there's some doubt to be had there. There's two versions of the story that are very believable. And it turns out that you hear one's version and then you hear the other's version, and you're like, oh, Luke's a fucking asshole. Then it turns out that both versions are kind of true in a combined kind of way. And then you kind of feel sympathy for everyone involved. It's great. Luke sensed something and then wanted to confront Kylo, but he just didn't know how to do it properly. And of course, he messed up. And it just sent Kylo over the edge. And that's what sparked the whole thing with Kylo forming the Knights of Ren and all kinds of stuff. We don't get too much into the Knights of Ren, which did kind of bug me. But, I mean, there's only so much you can do in a 2.5-hour movie, right? So, we do get this one amazing sequence where Force Ghost Yoda shows up. See, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. I don't get too choked up nostalgic about certain things, but they just show like his silhouette in the corner of the screen. My girl even missed it. And then they pan over and there he is. He's like, oh, hey Luke, remember me? And he's goofy Yoda. He's Empire Strikes Back Yoda. And it was just so great to see this non-sullant. And I believe he was a puppet in this one. And that was amazing. He still looked a little off. I mean, the different artists created him. But Frank Oz doing that goofy Yoda was just such a... And then they played Yoda's theme. And I think that was the first time I teared up during the movie. It was such an amazing, real short. And it kind of made me want to see Obi-Wan come around the corner at one point going, Luke, listen to Yoda. But on the other hand, I was kind of glad it didn't fucking happen. You know what I mean? That would have been a little too cheesy. But overall, that was pretty cool. Rey. Let's talk about Rey. Rey has an interaction with Kylo throughout this movie that expands on the Force in such a way that I think it's going to anger a lot of you guys. A lot of you purists. I mean, again, no one hates Star Wars more than a Star Wars fan. I thought this was interesting. It set up another thing that was a big payoff. And oh my God. I'm not even going to get into it too much again. I want you to see the movie. So I'm not going to give away too much. But this whole angle between them two and trying to get into each other's head and trying to get the other one to turn was such an amazing dynamic that I am so glad they did it. I'm glad they're going in different directions. So let's talk about a few things that I really hated before we go on to anything else here. I even have a whole list. No likey. That's what I wrote. Finn and Rose, that little subplot thing. That's what I was talking about that needed to be there to tie the whole story together. The problem with that is every time it came on, it dragged the story down. I didn't really like Finn in this movie until he fought Phasma. And aside from that, it's just, I don't know. And then Del Toro's character was kind of, here I am. This is what I do. Here's a twist. Here's my money. I'm gone. He was good for what it was, but it was unnecessary. The whole, was it Cannabite? Is that the name of the casino? That whole scene there, I hated it. It just did not seem like it belonged there. It felt very prequel, and it just dragged. This is the point in the movie where I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna be Phantom Menace, as Chris Stuckman says. I'm gonna hate this fucking movie. But once you get past all that crap, like, the good stuff is amazing. It genuinely had me. All right, back to the bad stuff. I'm not gonna get back into that. I just hated that whole thing. I knew it had to happen, and it showed another arc of Poe. Poe's this rogue guy. He always says he needs to go blow shit up and blah, 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 and go, 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 go. And it shows that even those guys that are smart and they know what they're doing are wrong sometimes. Chill out. We got things handled. There's a reason why there's leadership here. Relax, hotshot. And, it shows him failing. And he even creates a fucking mutiny as a result of it. And then he fails. And it's just, the way Leia dealt with him was perfect. It was great. It was typical Leia. So that whole thing, that whole subplot, last time, hopefully I'm going to talk about it. It fucking made me hate the movie. The movie starts off with this great action sequence, kind of goes into that, and then brings up this, and then a little bit more of that, and then this climax. Great movie. There were a lot of nods to the prequel. I don't know if a lot of people are going to mention this. There were sounds. See, I'm I'm partially deaf in one ear. I experience a lot of things through touch and sound. And sounds resonate with me a little more so than, say, visuals. And I heard a lot of the prequel in this movie. Not throughout the whole thing, just little snippets here. A ship, an animal, a sequence sound. And that kind of bothered me, only because I'm not a fan of the prequels. Now, if you're a fan of the prequels, this will do just for you what the rest of the movie did for me. Bring nods back to what your heart loves. Like Yoda's theme, it made me cheer up a little bit. So when you hear these sounds, maybe that'll happen to you. So I'm not going to call that a negative. I'm just going to say I personally didn't like it. So Leia floating into a ship. No, you know what? Let me get to this whole thing. Leia doesn't die in this movie. She doesn't die in the movie. The text crawl alludes to it. But there's this scene where you think, okay, this is it. This is how they're going to get rid of her, because they promised no CG Leia for any other flicks. And I hope the fuck they don't do that. Unless they do it well. Or do it in shadows. You know what I mean? That's fine. But there's a scene where Kylo and two of his goons are heading in, and, the scene in the trailer, Kylo pusses out. He doesn't kill his own mother. A lot of you, you're going to be like, yay, he didn't do it. I'm like, fuck you, Grinch, you pushed out. But the ship does get destroyed by, the bridge does get destroyed by his goons. And then Leia goes flying out into space. And I'm thinking, okay, this is it. This is how we're going to end Princess. Unfortunately, a general. I'm calling her Princess. And this is how they're going to get rid of her. I hate to say it that way, but I mean, what can you do? She's no longer alive. And they show her floating her body. And right there and then, I was just like, this is stupid. She's just floating. And then they show a close-up and like her almost like she's crystallizing because of the atmosphere of being in space. Space is cold. And then they show her fingers twitch. And then her eyes moving around. And then she does this force thing with her hands. And then she just kind of glides into the ship to go into the medical bay. And that was stupid as fuck. Stupid. I fucking hated that part. Oh my God, did I hate that part. But aside from that, the rest of the movie was really good. So, let's see. What else do we want to talk about? We needed a lot more Luke and Rey. I know. And Snoke. I didn't like how quickly they killed him off. He didn't really get much screen time, and what he did in The Force Awakens, it was really hokey and This one, he's actually really, just watch his character. He's cunning. He doesn't give a fuck who you are. He is going to use you, even Kylo, get what he wants, and he has no give a shits for anybody. And he just his dialect and how he's just like, oh, you think you're gonna be cool? And then, you know, Rey's like, I'm gonna grab that lightsaber, and the lightsaber passes through her head and comes around and knocks her in the head. Oh man, it was such a great scene. But Kylo killing him really disturbed me at first because I'm like, okay, well, one, we just got rid of Snoke too quickly. And two, if he goes to the good side, I'm not going to say light side. The originals didn't say anything about light. I'm not going to say dark and light. It's the dark side and the good people. I'm over here like, Kylo's going to go to the good side. God damn it. He's such a great character. He could be, oh my God, no, he wants to take over everything. And then we harken back to Vader and Luke. Join me, and together we can destroy this shit, and we can rule the galaxy, you know? And, Rey doesn't take the bait. But whatever. Now he Hux comes over, and he's like, wait a minute, motherfucker. You think you could take over? And Kylo's just like, choke. And that was probably one of the first moments in the movie where I was like, yes! And everyone looked at me. I was like, oh, sorry, guys. They're all rebel scum in that audience. And he's choking him. And then he throws him. No, he throws him later on. The guy's like, hey, Kylo, chill out. And he's just like, boom. That was worth the ticket price all along. So any characters I didn't talk about. I talked about Rey. Rey was good in it. She was exactly what I expected. I'm not going to get too much of Yoda. Leia, I talked about, her character was actually really good. I liked Leia in this for the most part, except for the Mary Poppins scene. And that's what I'm calling it, by the way. A few other things. But Leia was great. Snoke was great. Kylo was amazing. Best part of the whole movie. Let's see. Twists and turns, we talked about that. I talked about the pacing. Let's talk about who is no longer as a result of this movie. Akbar's gone. In unceremonious way. Same time Leia gets all blown up and thrown out of a ship, that's when Akbar dies. We don't see much of that. We just know what happens. It's kind of sad to see him go, but I'm kind of glad to see some of the old people disappearing. Only because I want us to move on to something new. I don't want the same fucking story of the Skywalkers and Death Stars and all kinds of crap. Phasma gets taken out. That kind of bummed me out because I really enjoy that character. I don't think Phasma had enough screen time in the first movie. She had some in this one. And her fight with Finn was just amazing. And then Finn takes her out, and, it is what it is. So, oh well. Rest in peace, Phasma. Luke. The one thing I can say about Luke, I'm not even going to call him dying. He doesn't die in this movie. He just becomes one with the Force. There is a difference, in my opinion. When Yoda finally passes, he just kind of disappears and becomes one with the Force. Same could be said about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Luke did this amazing thing to help out the Resistance. That's something else I got to talk about, Resistance. And it's a silly little point, but I'll get to it in a minute. And it just, in my opinion, just took everything out of him. And I think it got him to the point where he's just like, look, I tried to explain my point of view of the Jedi ending because he knows that even the Jedi suck sometimes. He tried to make a thing out of it. And it turns out that in the prequels, that was their heyday. It's over with. And I think Luke finally came to terms with that. So he does this one last stitch effort to help out the Resistance. And then just sits quietly and becomes one with the Force. After a nice little callback to looking at two sons, another tear-jerking moment. And just his clothes just fall down and he's gone. So hopefully he'll come back as the Force goes down in and talk to Rey later on. Maybe Mark Hamill's just done with it. And I'm okay with that as well. Again, let's move on to a whole new generation. Let's tell new stories. Sad to see him go, but it wasn't focused on in this enormous dramatic fashion. So I'm okay with that too. So one devastating loss in this movie I completely almost overshadowed throughout the whole review. I was watching what I recorded while doing dishes and just realized I left out the most important loss of this movie. So Rey and Kylo, they get together. Kylo kills Supreme Leader Snoke. And a battle ensues with all the guards and everything. And it's this really fun action sequence that's very cool. Not over dramatic. Just hip. Cool. Then you find out Kylo's doing it because he wants to be the Supreme Leader now. And is not going to turn. And he's trying to convince Rey to turn. And then this tug of war between Luke's old lightsaber, Anakin from Revenge of the Sith's lightsaber, Luke's lightsaber from A New Hope that he was given from Obi-Wan Kenobi, and in turn had it in The Empire Strikes Back and lost it with his hand. The lightsaber's floating between Rey and Kylo. This tug of war, this Force tug of war. And then the saber just snaps. It just breaks. 2 pieces. We do see it at the end. Yeah, at the end. Rey has it in her hand in 2 pieces, and you see the Kyber crystal. So maybe there's still hope. But out of all the losses, including Carrie Fisher, in the movie anyway, real life Carrie Fisher passing away is probably a little more sad. But just seeing that one scene there alone, I don't know if I can ever recover from this loss. Okay, let's talk about the Resistance, and I'll give you, this thing's running way too long. I noticed in the text crawl, the first time the words Resistance were put up there, it was all in bold as if to say, stop calling these guys rebels. They don't want to use the rebels anymore, even though the First Order keeps calling everyone rebel scum, which I like, because they're fucking rebel scum. But it was all in caps. Only once, it said Resistance again somewhere down lower in the crawl, but it was just all in caps. And I was just like, that's right, he's trying to, it's the Resistance. This is a different movie, even though it's still Star Wars. Bad guys and good guys and lasers, pew, 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 But that's really it. Overall, I think it's a really great movie once you get past it. There was a lot of times where I sat there and said, fuck, I'm going to hate this movie. But it redeems itself really quickly. And the parts that I liked, I loved on more of a, this is a great movie level. I actually felt it. I was like, wow. Oh, okay. Like the whole thing with Luke, you don't know if he's really a prick, if he's just not a prick, and he just didn't know how to handle it. The whole twists and turns with Kylo. Never mind with Rey. We kind of figured she wasn't going to go to the dark side, but that whole dynamic with Kylo, is he or is he isn't? You know what I mean? It was just all in like a 5-minute period. It was like, oh, he's a bad guy. Oh, wait a minute, he might go good. Oh no, he's a super bad guy, and I loved it. So, guys, if you've seen the movie, hopefully you have. If you got this far, let me know down below what you think. Again, no one hates Star Wars more than a fan of Star Wars, so I know. Oh, it was a dumb movie, but you know what? I liked it better than The Force Awakens, the parts that I did like, and I think it's opening up an amazing new universe. There's a little sequence at the very end where a little kid comes out and uses the Force to grab his broom, just when we're talking about there is no hope, or maybe there could be hope. And this kid's somewhere far away that we were there for a little bit and I hated it. Part of the casino thing. He was a little slave kid. But it just shows him, they're telling stories about the Jedi and all this stuff. Luke Skywalker, these kids with these makeshift little action figures. And this kid's listening, and he walks outside to do his chores, uses the Force to grab a broom, starts sweeping, looks up, sees the battles up there, and there's hints of Luke. And Luke's theme plays. Again, the famous 2 sons, New Hope, standing on the mound of sand, staring up at the suns. With do, 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 do. I don't know if that's setting up something for the new episode 9, or if that's part of Johnson's new trilogy that he's supposedly signed up to start after this is all over. But either way, it was a very interesting end. And I'm glad they didn't end it with a huge cliffhanger. No more, oh, this, that, and the other thing, and whatever. They ended it with what ifs. questions that are logical. So, oh, and you get to find out who Ray's parents are, but I ain't spoiling that if you haven't seen the fucking movie. So, and it's great. It's nonchalant. It's just, yeah, these were them. Get over it. Now move on. Loved it. So, guys, I really liked The Last Jedi. I plan to go see it again, hopefully 1 or 2 more times. And, of course, when the Blu-ray comes out, I'll buy the shit out of that. So, hated the porgs. Have to get that out there. So, guys, what did you think of Star Wars The Last Jedi? God, this is a long-ass review, and I apologize for that. I know I was all over the place, and there's a lot I probably didn't talk about, but there's a lot to talk about with this movie. Maybe, if you'd like, I'll follow it up with another review of things I haven't talked about. And that's that. So, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Go ahead and leave feedback down below. Thumbs up, thumbs down. All feedback to the Creep is positive. Until next time, guys, take care. Happy holidays. We're getting right there to that crunch time. And I hope your family are having a great time with it. You're celebrating. You're all having fun and being safe about it. And until next time, guys, take care.